Welcome back to the world of Beyond the Gates, a place where every smile hides a secret, every promise comes with a price, and every truth cuts deeper than betrayal. This week, the spotlight turns to one of the most explosive storylines yet, the looming confrontation between Leslie and June. Two women bound by resentment, haunted by love, and driven by survival. What began as whispered suspicion is about to erupt into an emotional war that will shake Fairmont Crest to its core. For weeks, viewers have watched the tension rise. Leslie, once the pillar of strength and poise, unraveling under the weight of her own insecurities, and June, the outsider marked by her past, fighting for redemption in a world eager to see her fall. Now, that fragile line between dignity and destruction is about to break. In the upcoming episode, Leslie delivers a warning that will forever change the course of both their lives. What she intends as protection quickly becomes obsession, and what starts as fear ends in irreversible tragedy. This isn't just another fight, it's the culmination of every lie, every betrayal, and every suppressed emotion finally demanding release. Tonight's video will uncover the full descent, how Leslie's quiet anger evolved into desperation, how June's search for peace turned into panic, and how one night of rain and regret will echo far beyond the gates of their perfect world. If you thought you knew these women, prepare to see them stripped bare, broken, defiant, and consumed by choices they can never undo. Stay until the end as we dissect not only what led them here, but what happens next. Because in Beyond the Gates, no secret stays buried forever. Long before the confrontation that will shake Fairmont Crest, there was a quiet war brewing beneath the surface of its polished gates. Leslie had always believed she was in control, composed, dignified, the matriarch who understood how to survive in a world built on perception. But control was an illusion, and June was the reminder that illusions eventually fracture. What began as a misunderstanding months ago evolved into a silent battle of pride, guilt, and suspicion. June entered the picture when Ted's life spiraled into chaos. A mysterious woman tied to his past, she arrived under the guise of seeking forgiveness, claiming redemption for mistakes no one had asked her to explain. Leslie sensed the danger immediately. She had spent years building the fragile foundation that held her family together, and she was not about to let an outsider break it apart. Yet June was no ordinary woman. She carried a wounded charisma that drew sympathy and suspicion in equal measure. Her vulnerability made her dangerous. Her story, half-truths wrapped in sorrow, captured Ted's attention, giving him the empathy Leslie had spent years trying to earn but never fully received. The situation turned darker when Leslie discovered a series of quiet encounters between Ted and June, visits framed as charity or professional courtesy, but there was something more in Ted's eyes whenever her name was mentioned. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was enough to make Leslie unravel. She began digging into June's past, only to uncover records that didn't align: hospital files, donation receipts, a psychiatric evaluation sealed years ago. The inconsistencies fed her paranoia. Each new clue made Leslie believe June wasn't merely a lost woman seeking comfort but someone executing a calculated plan. Perhaps revenge. Perhaps manipulation. Or worse, obsession. As the days turned into weeks, the lines between moral right and emotional wrong blurred. Leslie's warnings to Ted went unheard, her quiet disapproval turned into silence, and silence became resentment. Then came the whispers that June had been seen near the Dupree mansion at night, long after Ted had fallen asleep. One of the house staff reported seeing her standing near the garden, watching through the glass like a phantom from another life. That was when Leslie decided to act. Not from jealousy, but from fear that history was about to repeat itself, fear that Ted's weakness would destroy what little stability remained. The confrontation, when it finally came, wasn't planned. It erupted out of exhaustion and rage. June crossed paths with Leslie in the most unexpected place, outside the charity gala hosted at Fairmont Crest, where every guest came dressed in elegance and deceit. June arrived uninvited, claiming she wanted to clear the air, but Leslie saw it as a provocation. The music and laughter from inside the hall felt like mockery. Beneath the chandelier light, two women stood as opposites, one protecting a reputation, the other fighting for a voice. The atmosphere thickened with unspoken accusations. For June, this was a moment of desperate truth. For Leslie, it was a declaration of war. The weeks of tension collapsed into one irreversible instant. A single secret, whatever June whispered that night, shattered Leslie's composure entirely. Some say June had proof, something tangible that tied Ted to an event from his past that could ruin him. Others believe she exposed something deeper, a secret about Leslie herself that she had buried long ago. Whichever it was, the warning that followed wasn't a choice, it was a reflex of pain turned into survival. Leslie's voice trembled not out of weakness but fury disguised as restraint. What June didn't realize was that Leslie's warning wasn't simply personal, it was prophetic. The threat was real, and it would soon turn into action. In the aftermath of their encounter, nothing remained untouched. Ted began to withdraw emotionally, uncertain of what had truly transpired between the two women. June, meanwhile, became the town's newest pariah, though she carried herself as if untouched by shame. Yet when night fell, the facade cracked. She started receiving anonymous letters, no signature, no address, each one echoing the same warning Leslie had given that night. By the time the next episode begins, both women will stand on the edge of collapse. Leslie's pride has transformed into obsession, and June's search for redemption is turning into fear. The residents of Fairmont Crest will sense the shift but won't understand the depth of what's coming. The story is no longer about jealousy, it's about control, survival, and the terrifying lengths people will go to protect the lies that define them. The confrontation between Leslie and June was not the end but the spark that lit a chain of ruin neither woman could stop. In the hours that followed the gala, the Dupree estate became a place of whispers and unfinished sentences. The air itself seemed heavy with judgment, every corner echoing the tension of what had been said and what could never be unsaid. Ted remained oblivious to the full extent of what had occurred, torn between loyalty and guilt, unable to see that his hesitation was feeding the storm already rising between the two women. Leslie returned home from that night not as a victor but as a haunted figure. The warning she had given June replayed in her mind over and over, transforming from a righteous defense into a confession of her own insecurity. She began to see enemies in every shadow, suspecting that June might retaliate through exposure, through gossip, through whatever fragments of truth she possessed. Sleep left her. Meals turned cold on untouched plates. What she had once called dignity was now a mask cracking under the weight of paranoia. Meanwhile, June's world grew darker. She pretended to shrug off Leslie's threats, acting composed when spoken to, smiling through the hostility that met her in every corner of the town. But her nights told another story. The letters continued. Slipped under her door, sometimes tucked into her car windshield, each one repeating that her time was running out. They were written in elegant cursive, almost too careful, and though she never saw Leslie write them, the tone was unmistakable. It was the same cold cadence Leslie had used that night, promising retribution cloaked in civility. June tried to dismiss it, but the fear became physical. Doors creaked louder, footsteps behind her lasted too long, and faces in crowds blurred into potential threats. The calm exterior she wore began to shatter when she realized someone had been inside her apartment. Nothing was stolen, but something had been left on the table, a silver pendant Leslie once gifted Ted years ago. The message was clear: June was being watched, and every boundary had been crossed. As the week unfolded, the two women's paths kept intersecting in cruel symmetry. Leslie visited the church more frequently, pretending to pray for forgiveness while quietly rehearsing her defense. In her mind, she wasn't the villain, she was the guardian of decency, a woman preserving what others would destroy. But in reality, her desperation was isolating her. Anita began to notice the change, the sleepless eyes, the trembling hands, the way Leslie avoided mirrors. Ted's concern turned to avoidance, and when he started spending time away from home, Leslie's imagination filled the silence with visions of June. Each passing day blurred the line between what was real and what she feared might be real. June, on the other hand, tried to reclaim her sense of self by working again, volunteering at the community clinic, trying to prove she wasn't the monster people whispered about. But whispers are contagious, and soon no one would meet her eyes. Rumors spread that she had blackmailed Ted, that she had seduced him, that she was after the Dupree fortune. None of it was true, yet truth had become irrelevant. Leslie's influence, subtle, invisible, was everywhere. June's isolation deepened until paranoia turned into resolve. She decided to confront Leslie one last time, to demand peace, to force the truth into the open. That night, rain fell over Fairmont Crest, drumming against windows like an omen. June arrived at Leslie's doorstep soaked, trembling, yet unafraid. Inside, Leslie was alone, her home dimly lit by the glow of one lamp. The air between them was thick with everything left unsaid. No witnesses. No masks. Just two women who had run out of pretenses. June's words, though unseen by the world, carried desperation. She wanted the torment to end. But Leslie had already crossed the threshold where reason mattered. In her mind, June's very existence was a threat to her survival. Every word June spoke only deepened the wound, every tear felt like manipulation. Leslie saw not a broken woman, but an intruder who had dismantled the last semblance of order in her life. What happened next would be whispered about in Fairmont Crest for months. The official story would call it an accident, June slipping on the wet marble steps outside Leslie's house. But those who knew the truth would tell a darker tale, that Leslie had followed her to the door, that a struggle broke out, that pride turned to panic. In the chaos, one push changed everything. June's body struck the stone with a hollow sound that echoed through the rain. Leslie froze, staring at her own trembling hands, unable to comprehend what she had done. The world went silent except for the rain and the faint hum of guilt that would never fade. When dawn came, Leslie was no longer the woman the town knew. She didn't confess. She didn't cry. She simply carried on as if nothing had happened, erasing every trace of that night. But the silence became her punishment. She began hearing June's voice in mirrors, her reflection flickering like a living ghost. Sleep brought nightmares of the fall, of the sound, of the look in June's eyes before everything went black. Ted grew colder, Anita more distant, and even the walls of the house seemed to accuse her. By the end of the week, the police would arrive not because of witnesses, but because guilt always finds a way to surface. An anonymous tip, a bloodstain the rain couldn't wash away, a security camera that caught a glimpse of movement. Leslie's world began to crumble. The woman who once commanded respect would now face the weight of her own decisions. In a cruel twist of fate, June, the woman she despised, would haunt her forever, not as a ghost, but as a reminder of what happens when fear and pride consume the soul. And so, as Fairmont Crest prepares for the next episode, one truth will dominate the whispers behind its gates: in this world, redemption is rare, forgiveness is fragile, and the cost of control is always blood. As the credits roll and the storm clears, the cost of that one confrontation becomes horrifyingly clear. Leslie stands alone, her warning fulfilled but her soul fractured. June's silence, once a source of strength, becomes the shadow that will haunt her rival forever. The fall wasn't just physical, it was moral, spiritual, and irreversible. Every action, every moment of pride, has led to this. The elegance of Fairmont Crest has always been a lie. Behind the designer dresses and champagne galas lies rot, guilt, and desperation. And now, Leslie's perfect life is crumbling under its own weight. What she thought was justice was only vengeance wearing the mask of virtue. June may be gone, but she remains omnipresent, her name whispered in corridors, her memory replayed in sleepless nights. The Dupree circle is no longer safe. The gates that once promised security now feel like prison walls, closing in on everyone who dared to hide the truth. But here's the question every fan is asking: will Leslie confess, or will she let another take the blame? Could Ted, in his confusion, unknowingly protect the woman responsible? And will the truth of June's final moments surface in the most unexpected way? The coming episodes promise fallout, investigations, and an unraveling of every secret Leslie thought she buried with June. If this is just the beginning, the next act may destroy everything left standing. So, what do you think, Beyond the Gates fans? Is Leslie redeemable, or has she crossed the line forever? Do you believe June's fall was an accident, or justice served in disguise? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next dark twist from Beyond the Gates. Because beyond every gate lies a truth waiting to be revealed, and this one has only just begun.